So the Hamilton Ticats lose the second exhibition game of the 2014 season 41-23 to the Toronto Argonauts at Varsity Stadium. I'm here with the Spec Steve Milton. And Steve, let's start with the good stuff. Zach Collaros played well. Kent Austin thought so. You thought so too.
Yeah, I did as well. 13 of 18 for almost 200 yards, and he only played a half. And 13 completions in this game, Drew, with the pressure that he was under, I thought was tremendous, because I would say of those 13, close to a half, probably 5 or 6 of them were under severe duress, and he made plays. And Austin points out he keeps his eyes downfield, and he makes plays. And they kept forcing him to the sidelines too, so he didn't have a lot of room to run, because they always forced him to the narrow side. So on top of that, of the 5 incompletions, 2 were drops, and a third was when Andy Fantuz got hit in the head, and he probably catches that if he didn't get belted right in the head.
Well, speaking of that play, Andy, as you say, took the blow to the head. Austin talked about it afterwards, wasn't very happy with the hit, hadn't been able to see it on tape, but from our vantage point on the other side of the field, it certainly looked like a helmet-to-helmet hit, and that's the second week in a row that the Ticats have lost a player on what appears to be a helmet-to-helmet hit. Lindsay Lamar last week, same thing. There has to be concern about Fantuz, given the fact that he had a concussion a couple of seasons ago, and he's such a big part of this offense.
And that a huge part, not just of the offense, but of the way that they run the versatility on this team. The flexibility is based on several key Canadians being in key positions, and you're talking about inside slot here. That's about as key position as it gets on receiving. And if they lose that, and let's emphasize first that the issue is Andy's health. We want that to be, because we know that second concussions, and that's the issue with Lindsay Lamar as well. Second concussions, as you've proven from some of the research work that you've done over the years, are quicker to happen and longer to recover from the second and third, if that's only the second they've had. Lots of times these players have had more than that. The second diagnosed within a short time. It's very, very troublesome to this offense if he's gone for any period of time, and to the whole ratio situation, because their flexibility is based on, for sure, having Andy Fantuz in there. That's one of the few solid Canadians. They can move a lot of other Canadians around. He's one that's in there all the time.
Yeah, and let's just be clear that we're not certain of what Andy's status is yet. There was no diagnosis from Austin that Fantuz has been diagnosed with a concussion, so we shouldn't jump to conclusions yet. But it didn't look very good. He didn't get back into the game, and obviously there's some concern there. The other major issue, I think, from this game was the offensive line surrendered 9 sacks, and the big concern, I think, has to be the fact that 3 of those sacks came early.
Exactly, and what Drew is referring to here is that's when all the starters are on both sides of the ball. I thought, particularly in the first half, when all the starters are on both sides of the ball, Toronto dominated the trenches. Now, this is probably going to be, now it's not necessarily saying much, but it's probably going to be the best defensive line in the East this year. They're going to cause some people some trouble, and I think they go pretty deep on that line too. It's not just 4 guys, but they never, they did blitz a little bit. And that wasn't picked up at all, and that's an issue without C.J. Cable playing, because as Austin points out, he thinks he's the best blocking back in the league. I didn't think the running backs touched anybody on the come-throughs, and they really have to. And they didn't, most times, rush more than anybody else. And on the other side of the ball, they didn't have a tight end. And Hamilton got very little pressure from the defensive line as well. I think I'd be a little bit concerned about that, because it wasn't like they used a tight end. It was basically the 5 against 4, which is, when you count the center, that's pretty well the way it's played in the game. They should have had a lot more pressure on Toronto, and they really, 9 sacks overall. It really was at will.
Make sure you check out Friday Spectator for a full game report, and the Scratching Post blog for all the up-to-the-minute Ticat news. Reporting from Varsity Stadium in Toronto with the Spec Steve Milton, I'm Drew Edwards.